Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday, March 24th, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-gan. Before we get started, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. 500,000 doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine have arrived in South Korea this morning. The vaccines will be delivered to local inoculation centers and will be part of the initial batch due to be given to around 3.64 million people aged 75 and older starting April. Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff confirmed that North Korea test-fired 2 short-range cruise missiles toward the West Sea last weekend. Following the news, U.S. President Joe Biden was quoted as saying the launches had little to no impact on Washington's policies towards Pyongyang. And for the 19th straight year, a resolution that heavily denounces North Korea's human rights violations has been adopted by the UN's human rights body by consensus. We begin with the COVID-19 situation here in South Korea. The country reported 428 new cases on Wednesday, returning to numbers in the 400s. Now, of the new cases, 411 were locally transmitted and 17 were from overseas. As South Korea continues with its vaccination campaign, 500,000 doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine have arrived in the country this morning. The vaccines will be delivered to local inoculation centers across the nation and will be part of the initial batch due to be given to around 3.64 million people aged 75 and older starting April. Following the latest shipment, another 250,000 doses are set to arrive this month, with a total of 7 million doses expected to be procured by the second quarter. The top infectious disease expert in the U.S. says the AstraZeneca vaccine is very likely a very good vaccine, but expressed concern over how the drug maker has been presenting data. Speaking to ABC News Good Morning America on Tuesday, Dr. Anthony Fauci said that while the data is positive, what was provided to the media was not totally accurate. He added the U.S. Safety Monitoring Board is concerned the data was outdated and might be a touch misleading. AstraZeneca on Monday said its vaccine had a 79% efficacy rate and was 100% effective in preventing severe disease and hospitalization. As COVID-19 cases continue to spike, Germany has decided to extend its current COVID-19 lockdown and impose stronger measures for the Easter holiday period. Meanwhile, people across the UK held a minute's silence for the deceased, marking the one-year anniversary of its first COVID-19 lockdown. Our Choi Min-jung reports.
With COVID-19 cases steadily surging, Germany has decided to extend its current lockdown to mid-April, with stricter measures to be implemented over the 5-day Easter holiday period. German Chancellor Angela Merkel on Tuesday announced that the country's lockdown measures will be extended until the 18th of April. During the Easter holidays from April 1st to 5th, the country will enter an even tougher lockdown with extensive contact restrictions. Over the 5-day period, churches will be asked to hold services online and public gatherings will be prohibited. Most shops will close and outside dining will also be banned. Anyone visiting the country from abroad must get tested for COVID-19 prior to boarding their flight. Earlier this month, Germany began easing restrictions cautiously, but the spread of the more infectious UK variant in the country led to a spike in cases, eventually prompting stronger lockdown measures. Meanwhile, the UK on Tuesday marked the one-year anniversary of the country's first lockdown. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the past year was one of the most difficult times in the country's history. People across the nation held a minute's silence in memory of the deceased, and in the evening were encouraged to hold candles and lights in commemoration. The UK witnessed more than 126,000 deaths over the past year, with over 4.3 million confirmed cases in total. Johnson stressed the need to limit more infections, warning that the third wave in Europe could also hit the UK. Over in Japan, people are remaining cautious of a potential rebound in cases after the capital region exited from a state of emergency on Monday. According to the Japan Times, the country confirmed more than 1,500 cases on Tuesday, a big jump from Monday's daily number of new cases, which was at 822. Tokyo reported 337 new cases, with increased infection in people in their 20s. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
The South Korean military has confirmed earlier reports that said North Korea test-fired 2 short-range missiles last weekend. But since they were cruise missiles and not ballistic, they're not seen as a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. Our Defense Ministry correspondent Kim Ji-yeon has more details.
South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff confirmed Wednesday that North Korea test-fired 2 short-range cruise missiles toward the West Sea last weekend, but the missiles were not ballistic, which would have been a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. According to South Korean military officials, North Korea is currently holding its wintertime drills, which are believed to have begun in December and usually run through the end of March. The last time North Korea test-fired multiple short-range cruise missiles was last April, that time toward the East Sea. The South Korean military's statement comes after the Washington Post and Reuters cited U.S. officials as confirming the launches and speculated the move was a way to pressure the Biden administration as it reviews its North Korea policy. But it's also been reported that U.S. President Joe Biden was quoted as saying the launches had little to no impact on the U.S. policy toward Pyongyang. The timing of the recent test fire comes right after South Korea and the U.S. completed its annual springtime drills held in the Korean peninsula. Kim Yo-jong, the North Korean leader's powerful sister, slammed the drills and sent a mild warning to Washington as top officials visited Seoul for bilateral talks last week. Also, North Korea's first Vice Foreign Minister Choi Sun-hee confirmed the regime will continue to ignore any contact from the U.S., even from a third country, unless Washington withdraws its hostile policies toward Pyongyang. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
The United States will host a meeting of top security advisors from South Korea and Japan next week to discuss its new North Korea policy. Citing senior officials from the Biden administration, Reuters reported that Washington is in its final stages of its policy review on North Korea. It added that National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan will discuss the outcome of the review with his counterparts from Seoul and Tokyo. The Biden administration has been mapping out a comprehensive policy on Pyongyang, which will lead to a new approach. For the 19th consecutive year, a resolution heavily denouncing North Korea's human rights violations has been adopted by consensus at the UN's human rights body on Tuesday. We have our Kim Hyo-san with the details.
The UN Human Rights Council has adopted by consensus a resolution condemning human rights abuses in North Korea. It's the 19th consecutive year for the Council to adopt such a resolution since 2003. This year's resolution was submitted by the EU and co-sponsored by 43 countries, including the US, which returned after leaving the Council in 2018 during the Trump administration. Seoul did not co-sponsor the resolution. It's the third straight year that South Korea has not joined as a co-sponsor. South Korea's foreign ministry said there is no change in its stance, adding the decision was based on a comprehensive review of various situations. However, it added that it took part in adopting the resolution by consensus, joining international efforts to promote human rights in the North. The resolution condemns the regime for its systematic, broad, and grave violations of human rights, while stressing the importance of providing supplies to the North's most vulnerable people amid the pandemic. It also underscored the urgency of resolving the divided families and reunion issues. It also covers human rights breaches on non-repatriated prisoners of war as well as their descendants. Kim Hyo-san, Arirang News.
North Korea has sharply criticized the EU's latest sanctions against its top officials for human rights abuses, describing it as a, quote, political provocation. According to the state-run Korean Central News Agency, Pyongyang's foreign ministry said it strongly denounces and rejects the sanctions. It added that it's an infringement on the North's sovereignty and encroaches upon its internal affairs. The EU said Monday that it will impose fresh sanctions against officials and entities from countries including North Korea, China, and Russia for human rights abuses. Police in the U.S. state of Colorado have identified the man suspected of shooting up a supermarket in Boulder, killing at least 10 people. Responding to the mass murder, President Biden called on Congress to tighten gun safety laws. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
The suspect, who opened fire inside a crowded Colorado supermarket on Monday, has been identified as 21-year-old Ahmad Al Aliwi Alissa.
This suspect has been identified as Ahmad Al Alissa, 21 of Arvada. He has been charged with 10 counts of murder in the first degree and will be shortly transported to the Boulder County Jail.
The rampage killed 10 people, including a police officer. The suspect suffered a leg wound during an exchange of gunfire with responding police officers and is in hospital and will be booked in county jail on murder charges. According to court documents, the suspect purchased an assault rifle less than a week before the attack. A law enforcement official who spoke to the AP on the condition of anonymity said the gunman used an AR-15 rifle, a lightweight semi-automatic rifle. Sharing his condolences on Tuesday, President Biden also called on Congress to tighten gun laws, including federal laws to expand background checks and a ban on assault-style weapons.
I don't need to wait another minute, let alone an hour, to take common sense steps that will save the lives in the future and to urge my colleagues in the House and Senate to act. We can ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines in this country once again.
The attack in Boulder, Colorado stunned a state that has already seen several mass shootings in the past, including the 1999 Columbine High School massacre and the 2012 Aurora movie theater shooting. Monday's attack was also the 7th mass killing in 2021, following the March 16th shooting in Atlanta that left 8 people dead, including 6 women of Asian descent. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korea's producer prices increased for the 4th consecutive month in February, mainly on higher prices of agricultural and fishery products. The Bank of Korea said Wednesday that its producer price index last month was 105.85 in February, up 0.8% from the month before. Prices of agricultural and fishery goods rose 3% on month, with the price of green pepper soaring 127% and cabbage around 53%. The central bank attributed the hike to the cold wave and the spread of bird flu that hit supply. Prices of industrial goods edged up 1.1%, led by rising oil prices and raw materials. It's one of the most anticipated events of the year, Seoul Fashion Week, and Tuesday was the first full day. At this time of the year last year, when the pandemic first began, the fashion shows were completely canceled. But for this edition, the designs were filmed at museums and landmarks throughout the capital and can be viewed on YouTube. Our Peunji has more.
Models walk alongside a 1,000-year-old treasure. This year's Fall and Winter Seoul Fashion Week took the catwalk to somewhere completely new.
This year, instead of being held at its usual venue, the country's largest fashion week has been pre-recorded at museums and landmarks around Seoul, including where I'm standing right now at the National Museum of Korea.
This is the first time that the state-run museum has opened its doors to provide runways for models. A designer of one of the brands participating in the Fashion Week says she was even able to shoot the video with live performed Korean traditional music and traditional dance.
It was such an honor to showcase my collection at a place where so many national treasures are kept, especially for a designer like myself who focuses on such traditional Korean designs.
The shows were also filmed at the National Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art and at parks near the Han River. And promotional videos featuring South Korean actress Bae Doona will even appear at Times Square in New York. A digital trade show that allows overseas buyers to purchase the pieces through an online retail platform will run for 6 days from March 24th. For other retailers, over 60 brands will take part in a show on the country's largest live commerce platform, Naver Shopping Live.
With the prolonged COVID-19 pandemic, more people are refraining from outdoor activities, leading to a sales drop in the fashion industry. We hope to promote sales through the live commerce show, especially by having a lot of emerging designers participate in this event.
The Fashion Week will run until Saturday, and the shows will be uploaded on Seoul Fashion Week's YouTube channel. Peunji, Arirang News.
Good morning. It's going to be another day with wide gaps in readings. In fact, Kimcheon in Gyeongsang-Bukdo province will notice winter-like morning turning into a warm spring by the afternoon. And air quality should improve by the afternoon as well under mostly sunny skies, and highs will be hovering in the mid to upper teens in most parts, and Busan and Seoul will make it to 16 degrees. Meanwhile, parts of Gangwon-do province are under a dry weather advisory, and strong winds will blow in there, so please be careful with anything that could start a fire. Warmer than average temperatures will continue, with nationwide rain in the forecast this weekend. With that, here is the international weather for viewers around the world.
And that will do it for us at this hour on Arirang News. We'll be back with more of the day's headlines at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.